Gary Henson, Coach Gary, businesscoach.com, Drayton Boylston, Executive Coaching University, and we're welcoming you to the Coaching Crucible today. Another great opportunity for us to offer you insights and training and exclusive information not only about the coaching industry in general, but also about areas of your coaching practice and areas of your business model, areas of your life that impact and affect what you're doing in your coaching practices. So, Mr. Drayton Boylston, can I welcome you onto the call this morning?
Yeah, thanks, Gary. It's good to be here. I hope everybody's fired up. We've got some good things to cover, and quite frankly, this might be a little gut-wrenching for folks today. What do you think?
Ooh, yes. Could be. I think we've got a great topic and an opportunity for people to do a little bit of gut-wrenching and take a little personal inventory. What do you think? Maybe check in with themselves and see where they are in their walk of building their coaching practice and their coaching business.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and it all starts with how we're showing up as individuals, and the business is simply a byproduct of that. So we're gonna get into some of that today.
Yes, we are. So what we'd like to have you do is what we'd like to have everyone do is understand that today's topic, we're going to be talking about what I call the rackets, or the individual stories or frustrations and angers that we have around certain areas of our personal business life. And Drayton, the exercise you call it is called what did you call it?
The ownership exercise.
Ownership exercise, yes. So what we're going to do is we're going to talk a little bit about how we develop opinions and attitudes about a certain person or a certain area of our life that we feel we cannot control, that we feel are not part of our control. I'm going to start it off and tell a little bit about a little story about my life and about how it impacts me, and give you some examples. And what we want you to do is be always present to the fact that you can raise your hand, that you can check in with us and type in questions, assuming you're online, and raise your hand, and Drayton will get to you. He'll be watching to see as questions come in once I get done with my little intro and my initial story, and see how we can support and help you in these areas. So Drayton, without any further ado, here I go. Are you ready?
I am ready, Gary.
Okay, here I go. So the term racket, the way that I use it, comes from a example of, for example, in the Prohibition days, they used to have they used to run rackets, or what they called back end of the store. So they would have a storefront, and it would look like a grocery store or a dinner house or something like that. But behind the scenes, they were selling illegal liquor or prostitution or gambling or things like that. So there was a storefront, and the racket was in the back where they offered gambling and alcohol and illegal activities, so that the storefront did not allow people unless they to get into the back unless they understood a certain code or a way to get back there. How that works in life, and what I have been explaining to Drayton about my personal life is that I have this racket, or this complaint, this ongoing complaint about my wife always being late when we get in the car to go to church on Sunday. So we have a time frame, and we always get to church at a certain time. And a lot of times what I'll say to my wife is that I'm going to go down and get the car warmed up for you, or get the car warm and get ready to go. So we need to leave in 2 minutes. So I'll go down a few minutes ahead of time, and I will get the car ready to go, pull it out in front. So all she has to do is jump in the car. And she say, "Okay, I'll be right there." And then I'm tapping my toe after 5 minutes, 6 minutes, 7 minutes. And this happens on a regular basis. So as you can see, what happens is that she's wrong and I'm right if you look at it in that light. But what's happening is it's affecting my person. It's giving me angst. It's making me mad. It's frustrating me. I'm getting stressed out and nervous about it. And it's an ongoing kind of thing that goes on in my life, and it happens to me every single Sunday, or almost every single Sunday. And I don't want anybody listening to hear that I don't love my wife. I do. I'm madly in love with my wife. She's the greatest lady on the face of the earth, and clearly the best grandma in the whole world. But it frustrates me, and it affects me physically sometimes. I notice myself getting tense and tight, and that's not really the way that you want to feel when you, A, are driving your car, and B, when you're going to church. That's the opposite experience that one should be having. And on the surface of this, it looks like it's her fault, her problem. And of course, if I tell people the story about this or any other area of my life that I feel like I'm not controlling, if I tell the story to other people, they would, in many cases, agree with me, which further emphasizes that I'm right and she's wrong. And again, that's what it looks like on the surface. And I would like all of you to be examining your life and be looking at where is it in your life that your coaching practice, that your spouse, that your business, that your cash flow, that your checking account, your kids. We have lovely rackets on our kids sometimes, Drayton. We just love to find things that, why don't they get better grades in school year after year after year, and so on and so forth. So when examining this, but where Drayton and I would like to share with you a process and a way to get past this is, first of all, it's really our choice how this affects us personally and physically. So the fact that I'm getting angry, the fact that I'm not doing anything about it, the fact that I'm physically making myself either ill or frustrated or reacting to this has nothing to do with my wife. That's my choice. That's the choice that I've taken on if I look at my life and be responsible for that. And then the other thing is what am I avoiding in my life? Like, are there things that I should be doing to be more responsible about this situation or other situations in my life? So is it really, should she and I have a talk about it? Should we have an agreement? Should we bicker? Should we stop bickering about it? Should we change the time? There's ways that we can do this that aren't going to have this kind of same impact on my life. And then finally, the other thing that I would have everyone take a look at before I bring Drayton into this conversation, that I would have everybody take a look at is how committed to looking good and being right are we in this world? And how does that affect us as coaches? If we're committed to looking good and being right, if that's part of what our commitment is, and I would assert that there's rarely a person on this earth that doesn't have a deep-rooted internal commitment to looking good and being right. It's just part of our culture, our society here in the U.S. If that's the case, are we really making this other person wrong so that we can look good and be right about it? And I think that's the significant underlying tone of this process, Drayton, where there's some psychology and some emotions that we have tied into these things that really serve us, and that's where I think I can hand it over to you. What's the payoff? What do we get out of this, and how irresponsible are we actually being when we have these things come up? So, Drayton, what's your response to this before we get into the exercise a little deeper, and what's your reaction to what I've said so far?
A few things come up, and I want to tie it to the work that we do with others, Gary, because as you were going through this, it's very interesting. I was thinking about back to my career in the business world, and also in terms of the clients that I see, the people that we teach to work with these clients on a daily basis. And just some big insights that I want to pass along to folks regarding this exact thing. So You know, Gary was talking about it's not about me, it's about somebody else, right? So it's not taking ownership, taking responsibility of our stuff, our stories that we create, and we're projecting this blame out to somebody else. And I'm here to tell you, having, you know, been in the big chair and dealt with very driven, high ego, narcissistic people, and yes, that is almost true 100% of the time in the big corporate environments. This is something that I needed to work on, and I still work on, and they need to work on desperately and need help doing so. And what you will find is that, and if you're a fan of Daniel Goleman and his work with emotional intelligence and working with high-powered people, they feel like that they're 10 feet tall and bulletproof. And they're always the ones that are right. They don't ever, first off, think, oh, could I be wrong in this situation? They lack this introspection, as Gary was alluding to, that is so important in leadership positions. And one of the most important things we can do as a coach is to work with these people, and this goes from a small business owner up to a Fortune 100 executive. We have to work with these people to have those blind spots brought to the light of day. No one else will do that for them. And Gary, when we work with coaches, so many coaches lack the confidence to have that very direct, and sometimes it gets emotionally charged on one side, hopefully not our side, but on the recipient side, that conversation with folks that will require them to do some heavy lifting personally to look at these areas like this. And, you know, we always think that we're right and we've got all the answers and it's somebody else's to blame, you know, the blame thing. And I'd love to get some comments from people in terms of, do you have the confidence to have that kind of conversation with your clients? Will you bring it to their attention that they need to own their stuff first and deal with these blind spots, and that maybe, just maybe, they're not right 100% of the time? And it's always about somebody else. You work with these big-time executives, and you think the blame game only happens in the lower echelons. It happens way up high in organizations too. And it comes back to exactly what Gary was saying, because it's this racket. They've created this storyline in their head that nobody can do it as well as I can. Nobody is as smart as I am. I'm in this position because of these things, and quite frankly, a lot of times their opinions don't matter because I've got all the answers. And that's the way these people think. They're 10 feet tall and bulletproof. And here's the caveat. That being said, they're still some of the most insecure people you will meet on this planet. And we have to help them in all of these different areas to see what the truth is. And Gary, I know in your dealings with a lot of business owners and high-profile business people that, you know, it's almost like this facade that they put on, and they project out all these things, like you were saying, that, you know, is somebody else's responsibility and certainly not theirs, and I don't need to do any work. It's all other people that need to get better. And it's just this corrosive way of showing up in the world and certainly in the workplace that undermines their health, their psyche, everything. And as coaches, we need to be really, really direct and confident and show up and have these hard discussions with people.
Absolutely, Drayton. It's not a get to, it's a have to. And when they have egg on their face, and I would urge all of you to look into some different ways that you can have these, what we call crucial conversations. And you want to tee it up. You want to let them, warn them that you want to have a real frank and straight conversation with them. We have to let people know that this is what coaching at the deeper level is. And it's what some of the big groups, which I won't name any of the names or the initials of these organizations, should be teaching is when you see someone that has that egg on their face and they're so committed to being right, and they're so committed to blaming others, and they're so committed to pointing out that others cannot do, and this is either at the very bottom all the way up to the very top of an organization. We're not letting anybody be blameless in this. I've seen this at all different levels. When we recognize this as a coach, we need to point it out to these people, and ultimately, in some cases, they actually become very victim-y about it. And one of the things that I've learned over the years about coaching people around being a victim, you either get your victim story, you either get to be the victim and say, see, he didn't do the job. I knew I shouldn't have delegated that to him. He didn't do the job right again this time. You either get your story or you get results. You can't. They both don't live in the same space. So you can either be a victim about it and say, we need to get rid of that guy, or you can sit down with him and sit down and explain that there's ways of working with people that maybe it's the leader that's having the issue. Maybe it's not the person that's being delegated to. And in any case, there needs to be a real crucial conversation, a crucial conversation, and it needs to be dealt with sooner than later. And yes, it's uncomfortable, but later on we're going to talk about the impacts of some of the results that you can get from these conversations, Drayton. But it's imperative that we point these things out because it'll kill an organization. It'll just absolutely hold it hostage if you don't have these conversations.
Yeah, and Gary, maybe it'd be helpful for folks to do a role play and let them know what this sounds like. So let's do that. You want to play the big pompous executive?
Yeah, sure. I think I can do that really well.
Well,
sure enough.
And the important thing is, folks, around this is I'd love to see a show of hands in terms of how many people use role-playing in their work. Just a show of hands. Raise your hand if you use role-playing with your clients. Okay, I'm looking at the list. I'm looking at the roster. Boy, there's so not that many. So again, show of hands if you use role-playing. Okay, that's great. Those of you who said you do, that's terrific. Here's what's really great about role-playing. Your clients will hate it. and therein lies the growth, because they hate it because they know they need it. And it really hits the nail on the head in terms of the work that they need to do. And when they hear themselves, and record these sessions, get yourself a recorder for your phone or use it as a conference calling service that has recording capabilities. Record your sessions and get your clients to hear this stuff, because once they hear themselves, they'll realize how unnerving it is to be on the other side of some of these conversations. And it's so important to do that. So role-playing, your clients will put up a big brick wall, I will guarantee you, because almost to a person, all my clients over the years have said, oh, are you kidding me? That's so just childish. We're going to role-play? And you have to be steadfast and go, yes, we are. And you're going to hate it. That's what I tell my clients. You're going to hate it for a while until you get what it means for you. So Gary, let's play that. So let's think of a scenario. So the scenario is you're pretty bombastic and blustery around your the people that report to you, and you've had a number of defections. They've just left, gone to a competitor maybe, and you don't get it. You don't get why people can't communicate well with you. So let's start off. So, okay. So Gary, yeah, go ahead, Gary.
And who are you going to be?
I'm going to be the coach.
Okay. So you're the coach, and I'm the senior executive in this particular example.
Yep, absolutely.
Get ready.
So Gary, we just got the results back from the 360-degree assessment that we did for you. And the results are really, really interesting. Did you have a chance to go over those?
I did, and I'll tell you that I've done assessments throughout the years, and I very rarely ever find them accurate. That can't be me, the feedback that these other people are giving. That you must have made a mistake, or there must be some electronic difficulty in reporting the scores, because that's not me.
Hmm. So, Gary, may I be very direct with you?
Well, sure, Drayton. As I've told you, as my coach, I've hired you to try to help me and support me so that I can improve some of the things I'm doing, and in particular, improve some of these broken employees that I've gotten that just don't seem to be able to take direction very well.
Yeah. So you look at those results, and so we queried 15 people that work underneath you, above you, to peers of yours, and to a person they said the exact same thing. Do you feel like all 15 people got it wrong?
Well, Drayton, here's the problem. Most of these people report to me, and I come from the old school. I'm the old school, old world kind of guy. And, in order to do a job and do it well, you've got to work sometimes. You've got to stay at your desk late and do the job. And these people, of course, they're going to complain or put negative things down about me because I hold them accountable to do the job. I've got to answer to the board of directors and the higher-ups of my company, and I've got a job to do, and they pay me well. And these people need to understand that they just need to really get their job done and do it well. Otherwise, it reflects poorly on me.
Yeah, Gary, did you hear the charge in your voice when you started saying those things and how defensive you got?
Yeah, I think I do. Did I sound defensive to you?
You sounded extremely defensive. My guess is you started clenching your fist. You changed your body language. You're probably leaning forward toward the phone, and your blood pressure probably shot up 10 points. Does that feel right in your body right now?
Yeah, that actually sounds pretty right on. You don't have a spy over here watching me, do you? And giving you a report, because I did lean forward. I did lean forward when you said that.
Well, I want you to think about these things, Gary. So you get into that space when you hear things that you don't want to hear, of going to your decibel level goes up, your blood pressure goes up, and you get very, very defensive. Do you think that kind of behavior is evidencing itself with your people?
Well, I would say you wouldn't bring it up unless you thought that it was. So I'm going to have to say yes. I think it probably is.
And how would you feel if you're on the receiving end of that?
I would probably withdraw or get defensive myself.
Have you seen that behavior in any of your people?
All of them.
What does that tell you?
I think we've gotten to the heart of the matter. So do you think you can teach me and help me relate and communicate to my people better so that we don't have these issues show up in the future?
That depends. Do you want to own it?
At this point, I think I have to own it. It's the only choice that I have. I mean, we're losing people right and left, and people aren't happy. New people come in, they're not happy. I think we have to do something, and I guess this is the place to start.
Okay, tell me in your heart of hearts why you really would want to do it.
Drayton, to be real honest and authentic with you, I'm getting tired. I feel like it's a struggle to come to the office a lot of times, and particularly in recent weeks and months when we've turned over employees, to having to gear up and to retrain and work with people and get them used to my style is just really exhausting me. And I just don't know how much more of this I can handle at this stage of my life.
Yeah. When you think about what you just said, Gary, and the physical and emotional toll it's taking on yourself, how much of that is the energy that you're expending just putting up this facade?
Wow, a lot of it. I would say probably quite a lot. It's
Are you
kind of
ready to
difficult
make a change?
It's difficult for me to look at this. Yes, I'm ready to change, and let's put this in the past and create a new future together.
Okay, I hear the words. I hear the words, and I have a question around that. Do you care enough about your people to change yourself?
Yes, I'm committed to change, Drayton.
And tell me what the other side of that change looks like, Gary.
Well, things are going to have to change, and I think I'm going to need a lot of feedback from you and from others. But according to these reports, according to what I see here, I'm going to have to take a different approach, a much more not so much me-centered approach to working with my people, and find out what not so much what works through my eyes or my world, but start looking at it through what's going to make sense and what's going to work and what's going to motivate and have them be more excited about coming to work every day.
Okay, let's wrap our session up for the time being, Gary, with I want you to answer this one question for me. What is different at this moment versus when we started this conversation?
I have a new awareness, and I'm seeing things now for the first time that I wasn't able to see before. And the awareness and the breakthrough for me is that this is the first time I've ever identified that the problem is me. I always thought it was outside of me, it was someone else. And now I can see that it all starts with me.
Mm-hmm. Okay, let's close that chapter, Gary. Very well done. Very well done. How did that feel on your end?
Actually, it's an exercise everybody should go through. You should feel what it's like to be on the client side, and you know it was difficult for me. I mean, it was a struggle for me, and it brought up memories of the past and brings up memories of comments that people say to me even in recent weeks and months, you know, and it's awkward.
Boy, that really brings up the imperative, the necessity for us to have our own coaches, doesn't it?
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely.
Yeah, how many times have we been on the receiving end, just as you were today? So a show of hands, how many people have a coach? Just raise your hand if you have a coach.
That would be someone that you meet with on a regular basis and somebody who is giving you this kind of feedback in your life on a regular basis.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
Not
so
a buddy coach.
keep your hands raised. So we asked this question a while back, and the percentages are pretty close to the same. I would say about ballparking about 20% of the people that are with us today have a coach. And as Gary said, you know, there's a great deal of empathy and insight that goes with being on both sides of conversations like this. And until you're on the receiving end, it's very, very challenging to have the right level of empathy when you do this magical thing called coaching. And it will bring a richness to your practice and, quite frankly, to the results your clients experience if you go out and find a coach. And I've heard all the excuses, Gary, you know, the money thing, and you know, it's all the objections that you may have gotten, other people have gotten when you're looking to get hired as a coach. So just think about that. That's the awareness that Gary and I want you to have today around this in terms of If you don't have a coach, what are the stories you're telling yourself? Oh, I've been, I'm credentialed, I'm certified, I've been through all this training, I don't need a coach. And I will tell you, at any given time, I've got 2 to 3 coaches. I need one, and I've got them in different disciplines that I utilize them for. And I've never met a person on this planet that doesn't need a coach. So please go find a coach. And you've got acquaintances in the industry, I'm almost sure of that. And please go find a coach. Gary, you want to piggyback on that?
Yeah, there's so much we can talk about with this, Drayton. But I want to tell one brief story that I think has the emotional impact for me, and that is that after starting with a new coach a couple of years ago, and getting coached, and after a couple of weeks I didn't do my homework assignment for that particular week, and I listened. I gave him the story and all the justifications for why I was so busy I couldn't do my homework that week, and so on and so forth. And I felt like I was playing a record for what my clients say to me. I felt it was almost like I turned on a recording and just played it, and in front of him and let him hear it, and I thought, oh my gosh, I really get the value. I really empathize now with why people, how good or how not good they feel about doing their homework, or about saying that they can't afford to pay me, or this or that. All the excuses all the top excuses, and they are there's the top 5, the top 10 excuses for why people don't hire coaches. All those excuses that they're telling you as a coach, if you don't have a coach, you're buying into those excuses that they don't have the money, they don't have the time, they don't have the resources, they don't have this, they don't need a coach, etc. And those are all the things that most of us tell ourselves why we don't have a coach.
Yes. So true. And we don't want to beat you over the head with this too much, but we do. It's super important. And
significant.
Yeah, it may well be the most important thing that you can do. And find a way to make it happen. You just flat out have to. So got a great comment from Abe here, and happy passed over to you as well, Abe. The holiday of freedom and humbleness. Yeah, I love that. And getting rid of arrogance. That was awesome, Gary. So raw and authentic. As coaches, how easy it is for us to be arrogant. Wow. Yeah, it's true. I have found that we oftentimes we buy into this. We're 10 feet tall and bulletproof and have all of the answers. And the reality is that's not the case. And I think, Gary, one of the great things that I took out of our time so far today is your willingness to be transparent and playful with these things and look at yourself straight in the mirror with no fog on it.
Well, thank you for the compliment, but somebody should need to tell the knot in my stomach about
that. Is my picture going to be on the dartboard later?
I was thinking to myself when I was telling the first story about my wife. I was thinking, all of a sudden it occurred to me, I hope she's not listening.
Well, I have the recording, Gary. So.
and the second one, I was doing my best to be arrogant and think of what responses people would say. And I've had some people literally fire me as a coach when I gave them honest feedback and let them know exactly how I felt. And that's how I've learned how to tee these conversations up and ask them if are they really willing to hear the truth. So the other thing is that I'm literally going to have a conversation with my wife and apologize to her for these feelings and thoughts that I have, because we haven't talked about that for a long time, and it's not her fault, and there's nothing wrong, but that's not the way I'm wired. You know, I'm wired that if you're 10 minutes late, you're wrong. You know, it's just you're out of integrity, and that's my stuff, and I need to deal with my stuff and my angst around it, and not be a victim by that. And can I just share with you, Drayton, the cost that it costs me when I'm that way with my wife? It costs. I've identified 4 different areas that it costs me. My affinity for her, or my love for her. So she gets in the car, and then there's a barrier there, an invisible barrier, right? And nobody talks about it. Nobody said. And if I bring it up, then it's going to start an argument. So I don't want to start an argument. And she's wondering why I have that look on my face. So there's a loss of affinity or love, vitality and well-being for me. Can you imagine that there's this knot in my stomach, and I can't just tell it to go away. It takes time for it to dissipate, and my vitality and my actual physicalness gets affected by that. And so I'm pledging to everyone on the call. We got a lot of people on the call today. I'm really committed to getting to a point where I'm not going to worry and stress over things anymore. And when other people don't fit into what I think they should be doing, just have a casual conversation with them. And at some point in time, you've got to outline consequences. We won't get into that today, but I'm really willing to let go anymore. The third thing is my self-expression. I'm not really self-expressed with my wife, and I don't really allow myself to be me when I'm thinking about this. And there's times, like Saturdays and Fridays, when I'm thinking about Sunday coming up, and I'm actually thinking about this. So it's not just that one little time frame. There's other time. And then finally, my satisfaction for life, for our relationship, for my commitment to having an extraordinary lifestyle. My whole satisfaction around that is eliminated because of this one incident. And this is just one incident. There's other rackets that I have, other times in my life when I have these things about employees, about clients, about our daughters, our grandkids, et cetera, et cetera. So there's really quite an impact and a price that we pay when we have these stories and justifications about other people's behavior and how they ought to be.
May I give a little insight here, Gary?
Sure, please. Please.
When we get into this place that Gary's described, it's operating from the outside in. So we're letting the external dictate our internal versus our internal dictating the external. And there's and believe it or not, a way to flip this where if you employ this, it will never happen again. Would you like to hear it, Gary?
I would love to hear it.
When you're sitting in the car and you're waiting for your lovely bride, what if, instead of looking at your watch and tapping your foot, you sat there and just mentally or out loud, how may I serve? How may I serve? How may I serve? And that flips 180 degrees from being about you to being about her. And would that lead you to all the things you just articulated? If you're coming from a place of service for your wife, would you do those things you just articulated?
Yes, the affinity and love would be there. The vitality and well-being would be there. I would be much more self-expressed and satisfied with my entire life if I just did that one exercise.
And I ask the question, how may I serve, between 30 and 50 times a day. And it's been a game changer in my life. I'm not saying, believe me, I'm not 10 feet tall and bulletproof. I do this because I need to do it. Because I am that alpha driver that, wants to get into the game and knock everybody around, and it's that game of life and that warrior mentality. And when you switch it and you come from this place of service, so before I get on a call with a client or before I start a class, how may I serve these people? Before we do the Crucible, how may I be of service to these people? And there is no way you can have a feeling of it's about me and I'm, all there is versus serving. You can't do the same things at once. Either you're going to be in a place of service or you're going to be a place of selfishness. And when we show up and do our work and we're here to be of service, that's it. And there's no religious connotations or spiritual connotations. It's just we're here to be of service to these people that we've been called to help. And it really has changed everything for me, Gary, and I put it out there for all of you. Hopefully, just give it a try. With your most challenging relationship, just on the personal side of things, for your most challenging client, ask how you may be of service, just silently. When you're working with them, it will change everything. Your body language, your whole vibe, everything will change when you're coming from a place of service.
Amen to that. I think it's a beautiful, simple, easy process that each and every one of us can take on, and it doesn't have to be any more complicated than that.
Mm-hmm. So everybody take a deep breath. This has been good. Gary, we've got a little bit of time, and I would love to have this dovetail in what you and I discussed before we got on today about the ownership exercise. Think we should go there?
I think so. I think we're ready for it, and we're ready to take it to the next level. So lead us away.
Well, and if you've got something to write with, or if you've got a Word document open, whatever works for you, I want to take you through this exercise. And this is an exercise I've used in the boardroom with high-performing executive teams. I've used it with individuals. I use it with friends. I use it for myself. And it's that immediate litmus test that you can employ on the run, anytime, no matter what the circumstances are. And I would like for you to just document a few things, and please take this forward and work on it after we conclude at the top of the hour, because it's really, really important. And take it and use it with your clients, because this really cuts to what Gary was talking about when we started the class today, and that is the whole ownership thing. And what people don't realize is that so much of the stress that is self-imposed, and we stress out because we try to own other people's stuff. Gary was trying to own the behavior of his wife. He was trying to own time. He was trying to own all these things that he had zero control over. And that only leaves you in a place of stress and angst. And it doesn't work. So here's what I would like for you to do. You take a 8.5 by 11 sheet of paper and just put a line down the middle of it. The old Ben Franklin T. On the left-hand side, just write down upper left-hand quadrant, or upper left-hand side of this, top. I own blank. And then on the right-hand side of the line, put I don't own blank. And I want you to do just a mental inventory of the things that you own. And people sometimes go, well, what does own mean? Well, it means that you have responsibility for. You accept responsibility of certain things. And that is the key. That's what ownership is. So I own my behavior. I own the way I show up with people. I own my work habits. I own my workouts. I own my part of the relationship with XYZ. So look at the left-hand side and just jot down the things that you own. And just right now make a list of 3, 4, 5 things that you own. And just drop us notes here. This would be great. Drop us notes of things that you own. And by the way, we just got a nice comment from Gail. Doing the role play for the group was excellent. Thank you. Suggest you use this format more often. Very valuable. Gail, thank you. We will certainly do that. We will role play again. Yeah. Gary's got to have some serious therapy between now and then, though.
Absolutely.
After the session today. We're going to be on the couch for a while. Just kidding. So what do you own? Just drop us a note. What do you own? Talk about the things that you own in your life. So Gary, what comes to mind for you? What do you own?
Well, I just jotted down your list there. Behavior, who am I being, habits, and my workout schedule. Now, I wanted to ask you, do I also put on there being a husband and a father?
As long as you are really clear about what part of that role that you own. So you own showing up with your wife for date night. You own showing up for your wife as a great listening ear when she really wants and needs to talk. You show up for your children, once a month doing X, Y, and Z. The other side of that, and let's take those examples. So the other side of that is you don't own your wife's reactions. You don't own your children's behaviors. You don't own something health-wise. Somebody steps on your foot and breaks your toe. You don't own that. Those things are out of our control. For instance, people talk about one of the things, the ownership thing, is around media. People go, oh, we're getting poisoned by the media. Well, you own the fact that you're choosing that. You can turn off the TV. You can elect not to read the articles on the web. You own that part of it. And what this does, it starts building our muscles in terms of, hey, I own this. I can do something about it. It helps people get out of that victim mindset. So when you think about the things that you truly own, I own the way media works in my life. I chose years ago not to watch the news. I watch the weather and I watch the sports, but I know exactly when they're coming on. And when I go and look at my Yahoo News, I only read the things that I want to. It takes me, right now, Gary, less than 5 minutes to read a newspaper. I don't read any negative headlines. I don't read anything about death and destruction. I don't read the obituaries. I don't read anything that ruins my vibe. Just don't do it. So I own that. So we've got some great things here that people have said. Ken said, I own control of my time. Now, Ken, a little observation here. We don't control time. We control how we deal with it. So I like to refer to this as time, instead of time management, time enhancement. So we control how we show up in every single moment and what we do to maximize that part of our journey. So think about that. Every single moment that we're here. Victoria said, attitudes, beliefs, feelings, thoughts, behaviors. Yes, and one of the most important things here is the thoughts that lead to the behaviors. So you own, and this is a really important one, Gary, you own the relationship you have with yourself. If you elect to beat yourself up, speak negatively to yourself, and to diminish who you are as a human being, you have full ownership of that. No one else does. So that's in fact, that is the most fundamental thing that we own, is our relationship with ourselves. And Gary, I'm going to go back to the serving thing. Ask how you can be of service to yourself. Look in the mirror and ask, how may I be of service to myself today? And write it down and see what happens. How I manage, Gail, this is great, how I manage my time. You know, we call it the me time exercise. We do that in one of our programs. That's exactly it, how I take care of myself. And that's one of the things, Gary, one of the exercises we do in one of our programs is we rebuild the calendar. And the first thing that you do is take care of yourself and those whom you love. Before any business stuff gets put in there, you take care of yourself and the people that you love. And you own that. And it's not about business dictating to you what your schedule should be. There's some things you have to do. Yeah, we know that. But for a large part, you can enhance your time in a great way by focusing on the things that are most important to you first, because we have to care for ourselves in order to care for others. Oh, I love this from Wesley. I own my generosity. I love that. Yeah, and generosity takes many forms. So you can be generous with your time, with your money. It's I think of the three legs of the stool that with charitable endeavors. You know, time, treasury, and talent. So you can be generous in all three of those areas and more. I love that. Okay, let's shift this. These are great comments. So let's shift this. So these are things that we own. What don't we own? So make your list. The right-hand side of that Ben Franklin T. What don't you own? Do you own conflict in the Middle East? Do you own what's going on in Washington besides casting your vote? Do you own the behavior of people in groups that you don't agree with? Do you own the reporting of, and I ran across this statistic, there are fewer murders than there were 20 years ago in the United States of America, and the reporting of those murders has gone up 600%. So, yeah, isn't that fascinating? Fascinating. So we're hearing about all this stuff a lot more because it's poison, and it, you know, sells ads. But think about, do you own the reporting of that? Do you own the way other people show up and react to you? And think about that, because some parts of that you own, and some parts you don't. So Gary, let's stay and keep writing, folks, and send them over. What don't you own? What don't you own?
I don't own.
Yeah, go ahead, Gary.
I don't own the way my wife reacts to me. If I ask her if she could please be on time, in the aforementioned example, I don't own my kids' behavior. I don't own the bad back pain that I go through pretty consistently. I don't own the media. I don't own other people's feelings. I don't own our political structure in Washington, D.C. And that's not that's a bipartisan comment. It's not. It's all politicians included. And here's one I put on there, and it kind of just for fun. I don't own TV commercials. So nobody's holding a gun to my head to have me watch TV in the first place, but sometimes I get really angry and frustrated when, in particular in the radio station I listen to, it's a sports channel, they're loaded up with commercials, one after the other after the other. Coming up next is the so-and-so show, and we'll be right back after this commercial. It's like 10 minutes of commercial before I get to what I want to listen to. So, but why would I get angry over that? Like it happens every day. It's the same scenario every day. Why get angry? Why get frustrated? Why get mad about it? I don't own it.
Yeah, there you go. And there's the beautiful byproduct with all this. Truly, if you embrace this and you incorporate this into your life, and Sharona said a great thing, I don't own other people's opinions, reactions, feelings, judgments of others. When you embrace this and you have someone that you interact with and they get all in your stuff, right? They're maybe raising their voice or calling you names or somebody else names and complaining about this, complaining about that. And when you say, do I own this or not? And 99.99% of the time, it's their stuff. You just happen to be there, and they're projecting their stuff on you. That's it. So when you sit there and go, "Oh, you know, I don't own that," you won't have that highly charged reaction. We get into the whole defensive thing, like you did, Gary, in the role playing. We get defensive about these things versus saying, boy, when I see someone that's out there just having this really interesting reaction, and I label it interesting, I just get very curious. I really wonder what they're processing. I really wonder what's coming up for them. Because I know it's not about me. Now, if I go up and slap somebody, that's a whole different issue. But if they're just getting their stuff out, I come at this with a real sense of curiosity. Boy, I wonder why they reacted that way. That guy that yelled at the waiter, I really wonder what's going on in his world that caused him to react that way. I really wonder what's going on. And I think that comes back to the service piece. Here's another one, and Gary, this is just right up your alley too, how my husband handles stress. If my clients take my suggestions, how my father handles his health. Yes. And think about it, when you look at your right-hand side, that right column, if you let go, if you choose to let go of all of those things on the right-hand side, how would your life feel? And when you encounter, let's say you're a parent to your parent now, and they won't take their meds, and there's nothing you can do about that. In some cases you can, but in a lot of cases you can't. Or you have a spouse that has maybe smokes. Can you quit smoking for them? No. Can you make them healthier? No. Can you make anybody anything? No. So when you're faced with something like that, just ask yourself, do I own this or not? Gary, that's the ownership exercise, and it's been a real powerful thing in my life, and it brings me great peace when I'm faced with these situations that can be charged emotionally. And you can step back. The first thing I also do is take 2 to 3 seconds before I ever answer anyone. That's what I try to do. And that keeps me many times from just reacting to what they said versus I always ask myself, how may I be of service? And I'm curious about them. And it almost detaches you and takes that emotional charge out of this situation.
I think it's great, and I may have mentioned this in previous calls, Drayden. What I have is a sheet of paper. It started out to be an 8.5 by 11 sheet of paper that I typed up. It's in Word. One page in Word of all the things that not only do I own, but I started writing them out in sentences. Mm-hmm. And I started supporting them with other definitions and documentation and quotes. And I started adding Bible scripture to it. And I just kept adding things because what happens is Drayden, sometimes I lose my confidence or my sense of well-being, and I forget who I am and what I stand for. So I started writing them out. I have 9 pages of things I go through every morning. First thing, to remind myself of who I am, what I stand for, who I say that I am, my character, my commitments, my relationship to my faith-based relationship, and so on and so forth. And I review it every day. Otherwise, my confidence on the meter goes anywhere from 5 to 7, and I want to keep it as high and close to 10 as I can.
That's a great exercise, and that's a great example to set for others, Gary, in terms of, this kind of work takes focus and consistency, and developing that kind of daily habit is absolutely what we need to do. And the thing is, Gary's demonstrated, and hopefully I have as well today, we work on this stuff. I take this really seriously, and I work on this stuff, and I talk about that with my clients. And I think having that level of transparency is really important in this work. We do not have to come across as 10 feet tall and bulletproof. And remember, working with your clients, you don't own their side of it. You don't own the outcomes. You don't own their level of effort. You don't own their behaviors. You show up and serve in the best way that you can. That's what you own. So Gary, we're at the top of the hour, and I'm respectful, as we always are, of everybody's time. Thanks for the great interaction. Gary, takeaways for you today?
Just a lot of not being a victim and being an owner, and just a great reminder of that. And I just want to thank everybody for a lot of great contribution on the part of others today. So we want to thank you for that. We'll talk to you next month. We'll have another great topic next month for you on the Coaching Crucible. And please invite your friends. Tell others that it's a no-sell zone and a free contribution to the coaching community that Drayton and I are committed to and will continue to commit to for a long time to come.
Mm-hmm. Very well said. Yes, and Gary and I are here, as we talked about earlier, we're here to serve all of you. So please leave some comments on the Coaching Crucible. You see it here, the playback archive. You'll get a link to that from today's session. Share it with people, and just give us some comments. And what do you want to see? How may we be of service to all of you? And Gary, we talked about doing some case studies with people. If you want to volunteer for that, so we can look at your business and show you ways that you can grow it, be happy to do that as well. So with that, everyone take good care, and we look forward to having everyone with us, and then some, this time next month. So until then, everybody be well.